Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special Regeneration video. Today, we are covering the Stolen Earth and Journey's End to celebrate the 15-year anniversary and also to cover it for our Regeneration series last year. As ever, I'm joined with Luke.
Yes, welcome everyone to this celebratory little chat, which works out quite nicely, doesn't it? With it not only being that 50th and not 50th, bloody hell, it's not
If
that
no,
old
no, no,
yet.
don't make me feel old.
Oh, 15th anniversary of this story. Journey's End went out on the day that this video goes out, the 5th of July. It will have been 15 years, and that would have wrapped up series 4, bid farewell to Donna, and left the Doctor on his own for his final few specials before David Tennant turned into Matt Smith. But now David Tennant's back along
Yeah,
with Catherine Tate later this year. So it seems fitting that we sort of saved this one for now, doesn't it? Not only do you
yeah.
get a bit of Christmassy goodness of sorts, this isn't a Christmas story by any means, but
It
you know,
does
it's
lead
part of
into
our
a
yeah.
to
Yeah,
one.
it does.
Yeah, so there's a link. There's a tenuous
Mm.
link.
I mean, it's part of our Advent calendar series, which we really enjoyed doing last year. So we thought we'd come back for one last hurrah. We'd get the gang of two back together.
Not
Not
like
that
we've
we've been
gone
apart, we've
anywhere.
been streaming pretty
Yeah.
much every week this year doing other videos. But yeah, just to go back into our older, previous style, I suppose, of these pre-recorded
Yeah, because
discussions.
people probably were wondering where's the Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Well, here it is.
Yeah.
We're covering it.
I mean, it sort of only counts as half a regeneration, really, because it's David Tennant into David Tennant. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that it only counts as half a episode in this series. It is 17.5 on the Advent calendar doors.
Yes.
Mm.
Uh, should we dive into sort of our memories of this when it aired? Because this is quite a big story, isn't it? Really, for our
Just a bit.
generation of fans, I
Mm.
would say this is one what just sticks with you.
Yeah. It was our generation's Avengers Endgame, I suppose, or
Yeah, it
Infinity War,
was.
perhaps, is a better comparison. I don't know. I mean, they're both pretty big. And this is sort of something like that, something on that scale almost. I don't think you'd seen in TV before, really. Like three
No.
different shows, this whole universe that Russell T Davies had built up at this point, coming together. I mean, it's always weird when you think of it in the context of that, though, because it's only after one series of the Sarah Jane Adventures. Like,
Yeah.
that was only just beginning at this point. So that's quite a strange thought, really.
Yeah, but you think how well loved Sarah Jane is, so it makes perfect sense to have that there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for her to be there. And she'd also already appeared back in School Reunion as well. And
Yeah.
it does feel like she's a bigger part of the Tenant era than she actually is, because it's only there and here and then later with that little cameo at the end of time
I mean,
that
you've
you
got
really
a
have
wedding of
her.
Sarah Jane Smith as well,
Yeah,
but
but
I guess you
that's
don't
Sarah
count.
Jane rather than Doctor.
Yeah, but I guess because the way Tennant speaks of Liz, of how
Mm,
fond he is of her, you just think that there is that big part to his
yeah.
era with her, really.
And I suppose because School Reunion is such a pivotal moment for the new series as well,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
adds to that effect. And I suppose the fact that the Sarah Jane Adventures itself does have a very signature Russell T Davies vibe. It feels very well a part of this world.
Yeah.
And so you do just sort of associate them together, as you should really, because they
Yeah.
are all part of one big Doctor Who world, really, which this is the convergence of that with this story, as everyone comes together to fight the big bad that is the Daleks and Davros.
Returning.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the huge, exciting things when I was younger as well. The fact that Davros was back.
Mm.
That was very cool seeing him in the dark at first, just the eye shining there. I'm struggling to remember whether we knew he was in it beforehand or not, or whether that was a surprise when the episode
I
went
think
out.
it was a surprise, I think. Because we
Mm.
got a glimpse of the Supreme Dalek, which, correct me if I'm wrong, this is our first new series Supreme Dalek.
Yes, it is.
Like
Because
the
before that,
excite
The only other sort of different Dalek design we'd had before this was Dalek Sec, really.
Yeah.
And the Emperor, but that transcends almost being a Dalek,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Because it's
God.
this huge. But also, it's just this huge thing that's stamped to the ground. Really, it can't
Yeah.
do much by itself. Whereas, Dalek Supreme, that's more of a boots on the ground kind of leader.
So I just remember the excitement of seeing that at the end of Turn Left, going, "Oh my God, there's a red Dalek! Insane!"
He always feels like the modern equivalent of the Planet of the Daleks Supreme to me, because it's not just a recolored Dalek; it's got extra bits on there.
Yeah, it's got an extra dome light, it's got the big gold rivet things.
I mean, the dome lights as well have got the extra red little bump to boost it up, haven't they?
Yeah. It's a brilliant Dalek colour scheme and design.
It was wonderful getting the toy of that, because they had like that set of Davros Supreme, the Doctor, and a Crucible Dalek with the different plunger. Well, it isn't really a plunger.
Yeah, 20 quid. God, we had it good. Woolworths and all that. Oh, this is peak Doctor Who, isn't it? This 2008 is where everything was just at a height. Merchandise, it was just everywhere. Like Series 5, don't get me wrong, there was still a presence there, but I don't think there was anything as big as 2008.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be associated for our generation with the that little, or not little, that huge section in Toys R Us, where you got like the big banner across the top and such. And just how red it all was with that marketing they had then. I suppose that as well works very well for Doctor Who in terms of marketing. That red and orange, it stands out a lot more, doesn't it? I can't see it working as well with the Matt Smith logo, like the blue. It's almost too calming. It's almost like it pushes your eye away in a way. Whereas the red and orange, that's like drawing you in. That's bam in your face.
Which is very Russell, because that's why the theme is so bombastic. It's like, Doctor Who's on now. You're ready for that adventure. So yeah, it's totally all Russell. It really is.
I mean, it's also quite a big story for me, in that Journey's End was the last episode to air while I was in primary school. This would have been towards the end of year 6 for me there. And so, it sort of has a big feeling to me in that this was,
finality
before I almost grew up a little bit in a way.
Yeah.
I suppose. But, yeah.
See,
and I think there's there's a difference between discussing Doctor Who in primary school versus in secondary school as well, isn't there? You're going to play as the Doctor on the playground a bit more, whereas in secondary school you almost have to hide it a bit as a Whovian.
I don't think you had to hide it as much then, because it's still Tennant. I think when I went to secondary, it was sort of Series 6 time, and you kind of did have to hide a bit more. But yeah, going back to the primary school thing, I recorded the episode and we watched it on Monday because we went on a school trip. So I was in charge of recording Doctor Who. And, it's near the summer holiday, so you're not exactly going to be doing much work. So we had the afternoon watching The Stolen Earth. So I've got such vivid memories of that, of just watching it as a class. And, beautiful.
Yeah, I think the April to July time slot worked very well for Doctor Who back then, for children like we were at the time, where it's sort of following you through the latter half of the school year, really. It's building you up to the summer holidays.
And then you'll have like a month away, and then you'll have Sarah Jane.
That always came like just as you're going back to school.
Yeah,
didn't
they
at the
timed
start
it so well.
Especially with Revenge of the Slitheen being that first one, how the characters there are starting a new school as well. You're just starting a new school year. Brilliantly done.
Yeah. But should we dive into the actual story? We can reminisce as we go along.
I'm sure we will.
But yeah, Stolen Earth.
I mean, should we throw some trivia out there for this?
Yeah, let's do a little bit of trivia. Because we've done our own personal trivia, I guess.
Yeah, so this is facts about us. Now we're getting into facts about the story. And I mean, a pretty big fact is that, as we've said, this was a huge crossover event, and Russell originally planned for that to be even bigger. Like with the Shadow Proclamation, you were apparently going to have all these different creatures. You were going to have Krillatanes flying about, Slitheen walking around, all that fun stuff. And apparently, a young Margaret Lane Slitheen was going to make an appearance, wasn't she? After being de-aged into an egg before getting to grow up with a new family. That was going to be a little cameo he squeezed in there.
We have a reference to one Fourth Doctor story in the Pirate Planet, Califrax Minor, which I guess is quite a nice little reference because that planet got shrunk. Well, was trying to be shrunk, wasn't it, the Pirate Planet?
I think, yeah, it was just saved at the end.
Yeah.
And now it's stolen by someone else instead.
Yeah.
Arguably someone slightly worse in the Daleks.
Yeah, so that's quite cool.
Yeah. Also on with Russell going big, he apparently wanted to destroy New York entirely at one point, but then decided actually that's probably too big of a hole in the Doctor universe for the next showrunner to deal with. And so sort of pulled back from that a bit, and you just get Unit HQ being wiped out by the Daleks instead.
You say that, and then you've just got Chibnall wiping out like half the universe with the Flux.
Yeah.
Good luck, Russell. Have fun with that.
I was like, this is for thinking about destroying New York, Russell.
Yeah. And then
it all comes back around.
the only other bit of trivia I've got is the Doctor was going to give the Metacrisis Doctor a piece of coral from the TARDIS so he can have his own. Which obviously hints that Russell was thinking, well, we could do a spin-off of this. This would be great. This would be marvelous. This would be wonderful.
I mean, it wasn't the first time that beach almost inspired a spin-off, because they were quite close after Doomsday to doing Rose Tyler Earth Defense, weren't they? But then I think Russell decided against that himself and said, no, let's not do this, because it sort of ruins that finality of that moment, really. Even though that then gets undone here anyway, but
yeah, and you've got the Dimension Canon now, which puts all this the backstory for Rose's journey of finding the Doctor, really.
I mean, that's something that's been dropped throughout Series 4, back to Partners in Crime. She then appears again in Midnight, certainly. Obviously, Turn Left, she's a big part of. She's practically co-starring. I mean, she's got a bigger role than David Tennant as the Doctor in that story. Yeah. But yeah, there's a couple of other ones as well, isn't there, I think?
Does it happen in the Sontaran two-parter?
Might do.
I think it's like a screen again, is it, or something like that? Oh, no, it's in the TARDIS with Donna.
Oh, yes, that's it, isn't it? It's during Poison Sky when she's trapped there.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, that wasn't like the only running theme throughout this one, was it? Like, usually you have your Bad Wolf or your Torchwood or your Mr. Saxon. Series 4 did it a bit differently in that. You had the obvious with Rose. But yeah, there's a lot of little things as well. Like, you got the missing planets, the lost moon of Poosh, High Revelia being lost.
The bees.
Yeah, the bees as well. And that all coming together on the Tandoka scale, isn't it? I'm sure there's other little things as well, like the whole thing of coincidence surrounding Donna with them meeting first
and
in Runaway Bride and stuff.
Dr. Donna,
yeah, it's all sort of sprinkled throughout.
I think this is much like End of Time is a celebration of Russell. This feels like Russell throwing everything from his era in this. There's a lot in this one.
Yeah, it certainly makes it a big action adventure, doesn't it? It makes it event television, which worked for the time. But I mean, as we'll discuss, maybe harmed it a bit in the long run. I don't know. We'll see. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Yeah. Also, a little bit of trivia. Apparently, the what was her name? The head of the Shadow Proclamation woman.
Yeah.
The Shadow Architect. There we go. Was originally called just Chief Constable.
Right.
But then Russell thought, no, that's not. That's a bit of a lame sci-fi version of a literal Chief Constable. Let's make it something more interesting, and so that's why you got Shadow Architect, which is much more enticing as an idea.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think also at one point with the Shadow Proclamation, they were even planning to have like a Jadoon fleet go in and fight the Daleks, weren't they?
Yeah, because that bit always sort of confused me. Like, we'll wage war. And I'm like, but you're, I guess you're there to hire, but it doesn't make that bit always sort of stuck out. That would make really much sense.
I mean, I suppose maybe the other planets that weren't lost are throwing enough money at them to say, "Oi, sort this out, please.
Yeah.
We want our planets back."
Maybe that would have been a better ending than let's flick a load of buttons. Maybe.
Oh, the Jadoon come in, it starts raining upwards all over the world, and then suddenly... Oh, no, I see what... Sorry, you're talking about the climax of the story, not the return, not pulling Earth back, we'll get to that, but first, Journey's End, or Stolen Earth, rather, starts with the Doctor and Donna arriving on Earth. They've just had this huge reveal at the end of Turn Left. Rose is back, Bad Wolf, universe is ending. Did that make any sense in this story? That was sort of something that was dropped pretty quickly, wasn't it? And more was just there for the huge cliffhanger. I mean, huge cliffhanger. Like, that would certainly rock your world when back in 2008.
But we'll have a moment for it.
You've got the red lighting for the TARDIS at the end, don't you, as well? When the cloister bell going.
Yeah, I think you have that in every David Tennant finale, don't you? Because you get it in Sound of Drums. No, you don't. No, you don't get it in Army Ghost, do you?
No. But yeah, you do get. Yeah, you definitely get it when it's converted into the Paradox machine, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's got the red lighting. But yeah, whereas with this, it's sort of very quickly forgotten. I don't know if it made. It's not really explained why everything looked like Bad Wolf all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And I think that's the thing with Russell sometimes. You do get those huge moments that you're not necessarily meant to think too hard on. They're more just there for the wow factor. But he has the substance where it counts in terms of the character moments and how they feel. So anyway, we've now gone to Earth to find out what's going on. Where's Rose? But it's just a normal Saturday. Good. We like Saturdays.
We do.
It's about 10 in the morning or something. They step back into the TARDIS to try and work out if there's any clues as to what's going on. And then, boom, everything shakes. And they look outside the TARDIS doors. And the Earth is just gone. There's nothing there except some asteroids floating around. So, meanwhile, across the stars, inside the Medusa Cascade, the Earth has moved. There are planets in the sky now. We're jumping around from Ealing in Sarah Jane's attic, over to the Torchwood Hub in Cardiff, over to New York with Martha at Unit HQ, and even in Sylvia and Wilf's house. It's those damn aliens again. I bet my pension on it. And then Rose arrives at last. She beams into the middle of a high street and says, "It's only just beginning." And we roll the title sequence with a lot of names packed in there. Yeah. It's like blink and you'll miss one of them as they fly through. And now it's basically just everyone scrambling to work out what's going on at first before you have that reveal of it's the Daleks, which brilliant reactions from the characters to really sell it, particularly Sarah Jane. Yeah, Elizabeth Sladen in that moment.
She looks like she's on a constant state, but she's gonna burst into tears throughout the whole story. I feel she's constantly on that edge, especially when she hears Davros as well. Oh, good stuff.
But I think it works because she's not scared for herself at all.
It's more Luke, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much Luke that is her fear. I mean, even like the first line she says after hearing the Daleks is, "He was so young." Like she fully sells the threat of the Daleks, and that this is very serious. Meanwhile, Martha's in contact with Jack. They're trying to work out what's going on. Daleks are attacking Unit HQ over in New York. They are decimating it, and so the general over there, is he a general? What is he?
Yeah, I think it's general.
American military person in unit says they're authorized to use Project Indigo, gives her something called the Osterhagen key.
Sontaran technology, isn't it?
Yes, scavenged from their defeat in Poison Sky. Jack is very much against her using this, though, isn't?
Yeah, because it's not been tested, is it, properly?
And then she disappears, and that's the last we see of Martha for a little bit. They sort of leave you on that with Jack saying Martha's down.
I mean, there is a bit of trivia that John Barrowman said the S word.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But
in what context?
When he's like Martha's down, he's like swear word.
Oh, he actually says it on the recording, but they cut it out.
Yeah.
It's in the Torchwood Hub, though.
Yeah. So it's allowed.
Yeah. It's all like you're temporarily in a Torchwood episode for when you're in those scenes.
Because for many people, it's probably the first time they saw Torchwood, all these characters, really, which I think.
Oh yeah, certainly
Russell
for me.
Gets away with it all, really.
But it works a bit better as well that you've got the smaller team of just Yanto and Gwen and Jack, of course. Whereas I think. Because with Sarah Jane, they get away with, saying Maria's down in Cornwall with her dad and Clyde's staying at home.
It's that wonderful exposition where you're like, it just flies.
Yeah. But it's nice to know, isn't it, that those characters
they're still there.
Are still there.
It's
like the point. Yeah. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme for like those who have watched the Sarah Jane Adventures going, haha, there you go, mum and dad. Whereas with Torchwood, I don't think you could really get away with saying that about Tosh and Owen if they hadn't killed them off in the finale just before.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you get Reese with a phone call, don't you? Going, love you, big idiot, and like you can make the inference that that must be some romantic relationship between the two.
Yeah, I mean Tosh even gets a little call out, doesn't she, with the time lock? How she gets to save their lives one more time. So that's a nice moment as well. But yeah, I do wonder how many people, because there were a lot of Torchwood audience who weren't necessarily Doctor Who audience members, weren't there? So I wonder if anyone did jump over to Doctor Who for this finale in particular, who had only watched Torchwood up to this point.
I imagine so.
That was an interesting for him, because it's not like there's any with this and Sarah Jane. There's no integral pieces there of the story necessarily. You can binge through Torchwood and Sarah Jane as their own entities and not have to worry about watching Stolen Earth, Journey's End for context, do you?
No, not really.
Nah. I mean, even with this tiny bit of Torchwood setup, you do get the end as Jack, Martha, and Mickey go off together. That doesn't get followed up in Torchwood because Freema Agyeman took a different job instead. Alongside a different Dr. Peter Davison.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, back to Stolen Earth itself now. The Doctor has gone off to the Shadow Proclamation, where instead now we just got the Judoon back and the Shadow Architect. You got the Doctor speaking in Judoonese and sort of baffling Donna for a bit there, which Big Finish then used to their advantage to say that, the reason she can meet the Judoon in 1 Mile Down is because her shock when she exits the TARDIS isn't that there being Judoon there, it's that the Doctor's speaking Judoonese. That's what that look on her face is about. So there you go. Big Finish always keeping an eye out these things. It's like Lena and the Sontarans, how they got away with that in the King of Sontar audio drama of the Fourth Doctor. But enough about that. Let's talk about the Tandoka scale. As they're looking through all these different planets that have gone missing, and Donna points out that Pyrovilia was lost and such. I think one of the Judoon captain just says, "Cold case, not relevant." But yeah, it's nice that Donna there is the one who's bringing this sort of thing up and saying, she's the one connecting the dots. And then from there, the Doctor remembers the other 2 planets, or I think it's or is it the adipose?
Yeah, adipose birthing planet, isn't it?
Yeah. One of those. Planet. Yeah, one of those 2 comes up first with Donna, and then the Doctor's the one who remembers the lost moon of Poosh from Midnight, because Donna wasn't even there for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was off getting a suntan at that point. So yeah, you have those planets thrown in, and it's 27 planets in total, which get arranged into an optimum pattern for producing vast amounts of power for some unknown purpose. You also get a wonderful line in this scene where the Doctor says someone tried to move the Earth once before, referencing all the way back to 1964 with the Dalek invasion of Earth, which for me tickled me because that was one of the few classic Doctor Who serials I'd seen at this point. So that was another nice little tie back. And you then get another one later on for Genesis of the Daleks as well. When Davros meets Sarah in Journey's End, about how she was there at the very beginning. So yeah, there's wonderful bits like that where it's not just New Who celebration and Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures. You get a bit of classic Who reference sprinkled throughout.
It's one
there
show,
as well.
isn't it? Like it is. It all happens. You know, it's one big universe for the show. There's no divide.
Yeah. Donna then has a creepy conversation with a woman who presumably is a bit psychic and can see the future or something, where she's just saying, "I'm sorry for your loss that's yet to come." So you know, Russell was always doing that, the foreboding nature, wasn't he? Like he did the same thing in Doomsday, where you've got the monologue from Rose about "This is the day I die." So you know, all the RTD-isms are on full display here. You got the bees disappearing, coming back up again, and the reveal that some bees are aliens, which feels very what's Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide, doesn't it, with the dolphins being aliens, sensing that the end of the world's coming, so they fly off. Whereas with this, it's certain species of bees are apparently aliens, and so they are disappearing instead because they sense something on the Tandoka scale, and using that, the Doctor is able to track where the missing planets are. And, you know, the Shadow Architect tries to convince the Doctor to lead a fleet of Jadoon into battle against the Daleks. But he's like, no, not my style. Nips
Time
off in
Lord
his harness.
Victorious, give it a few more stories and he probably would have done it.
And so he instead then nips off with Donna. They arrive at the Medusa Cascade, but there's nothing there. And you know, it sort of looks like it's the end of the line for them then. There's a sense of defeat there. Back on Earth, though, inside the Medusa Cascades, Wilf's going around with a paintball gun, which was Bernard Cribbins' idea, wasn't it? He went up to Russell and said, what if these Daleks, what if you just shoot their eye stalk with a paintball gun and then they can't see? Perfect weapon. And Russell's like, I see that and I raise you this. And so writes that lovely little scene in. And then Rose...
Humans being rounded up, don't we, to go towards the Crucible?
Yeah, you do as well. And you get one angry man who looks a bit like Maria's dad.
Yeah, Alan.
So, yeah. Joseph Milson, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same actor by any means.
Yeah.
They just have a similar look and voice about them, I suppose. But, you know, they are both living around the same area of London. He throws a brick at a Dalek, brings his family back into his female and his descendants.
Which is wonderful, because it's using the everyday as a kid and that fear that even in your house you're not safe from the Daleks. They will blast through it. Like, there's something quite scary about that, I feel.
Yeah, this is because as a kid you always sort of think, I could just hide under the bed and the Daleks wouldn't be able to get me. They can't shoot like that.
Russell did it with the Cybermen in Doomsday, with them coming into people's homes. Like, it wasn't that the monsters were far away. Russell brought the monsters into your house, and that's when it becomes scary.
Yeah, all the monsters just shoot your entire house from outside it.
The sort of operate. What was it? 5. So something at 5, wasn't it? Task Force. I can't remember the wording they used.
I'm not sure. But yeah, so back to Sylvia's house with Rose, Wilf and Sylvia. They are chilling around, wondering how they're going to get in contact with the Doctor, because she went there as like her last hope was finding Donna through them to then find the Doctor. But then the laptop suddenly turns on, sans webcam because Wilf's not allowed one. Sylvia says they're naughty.
I love it.
Wonderful
Wilf
little.
is the best. Wilf is at his best in this.
There's so many great moments of him, isn't there? I tried to get in with a paintball gun on the thumbnail for this video, but I couldn't make it work, sadly.
Oh, shame.
They get little thumbnail trivia for all you sat there watching at home. But yeah, and it's the voice of the former Prime Minister. We know who she is. It's Harriet Jones back again for her third and final appearance in the show. And I mean, when Russell was writing this scene, they weren't sure if they were going to get Penelope Wilton for it. So he was debating including Mr. Copper, who gets a mention anyway through the Mr. Copper Foundation, or Elton as the head of the Subwave network. This also brings into contact Torchwood and Martha Jones as well, who is alive. She's ended up back home with her mum. Like, Indigo tapped into her mind, didn't it? And brought her to one place she wanted to be. And it's nice that they get to show their healing now after the rather traumatic events for the Jones family in Last of the Time Lords and Sound of Drums. So yeah, they're all together, one big group, and they're going to use the power of the Rift to send the subwave signal out, aren't they, Emma? Is it the power of the Rift? I think the Rift gives it a boost, and also Mr. Smith plays a part as well. And they call the Doctor. They send the signal out. It goes out of the Medusa Cascade, and the TARDIS picks it up. But the Daleks also pick it up, and so Davros is able to hack into it after the Daleks have come along and exterminated former Prime Minister Harriet Jones, that is. Even they get to say, "We know who you are." Just continue to meme.
This is great.
And at this point as well, control of the Subwave network is transferred to the Torchwood hub. So the Daleks now know where Torchwood is and are coming to get them. But first, you've got this wonderful scene where the Doctor's like, "Rose, is that you?" But no, it's Davros tuning in, saying hello. You get that nice little moment between them. The Doctor's shocked at Davros having survived the Time War, how he grew this empire from his own flesh, literally. He sort of unbuttons his top and shows his rib cage, like just picked away at the cells so that he could use each one to grow a new Dalek for his new empire. And then with that, the Doctor's only got one thing to say to him: bye. Heads into the Medusa Cascade to join his friends. Rose heads off to meet him. Martha's heading off to Germany with the Osterhagen key. Who knows what that could be used for? Jack's also heading off to meet the Doctor. And then you get a nice little reunion almost between Rose and the Doctor. But he's shot and exterminated instead. So Jack turns up, shoots the Dalek, they all bundle into the TARDIS. Sarah's on her way to join them, but is caught out by some Daleks instead. She's under threat of extermination. A Dalek is entering the Torchwood hub. It's all guns blazing from Yanto and Gwen, and the Doctor is about to regenerate once more. And that's where the story ends, with him glowing orange or golden.
The longest week as a child.
You get the big "to be continued" at the end as well, don't you?
Yeah, just what a cultural moment that is, you know.
Yeah. No next time trailer either.
Yeah,
you don't really need one after that. Like,
no.
I think if you show anything after that, it's just gonna be disappointing, really.
I mean, they did undo themselves by putting David Tennant in the title. It's like, oh yeah, he's sticking around then. Because there's a wonderful edit on YouTube of if Matt Smith was a Journey's End, which I highly recommend people check out because it's really quite fascinating.
Yeah. That's all. Shall we, before you dive into what happens in Journey's End, shall we talk quickly about that regeneration? Because it's the reason we're here, in a way, with this regeneration series.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's different in that it is in the middle of a story.
Yes.
it's different in that the Doctor goes from one face to the same face again.
Mm.
And I mean, at the time, Russell wasn't necessarily sure that this counted. In his mind, he was saying, oh, you know, this doesn't count as one of the 13 lives that the Doctor has. It was only in Time of the Doctor when you got the full confirmation that, no, this does count and this is it, which sort of has some knock-on effects because it makes you question certain things in the Matt Smith era, like, you know, Impossible Astronaut and such. But anyway, that's more issues with Time of the Doctor.
Which check out our review of as well.
Yeah, we did one of those because that is, of course, a regeneration story. So, yeah, what did you make of this regeneration, both at the time and now?
At the time, it was that moment of, oh my God, David Tennant's going, because I don't think as a kid I knew David was going yet.
I think, was it announced by now?
I think it was at the National Television Awards in, like, it might have been actually, I can't remember.
Because I know it was announced long before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he said, you know, he's doing the specials in 2009.
Yeah. He was doing Hamlet, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it must have been pre-series 4.
I don't know, because they were probably filming up until like March 2008.
Yeah. I mean, I think pre-screening of it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it was 2009 Television Awards or what. I can't remember. But I don't think I was aware that he was going. So it was such a shock. But looking back on it now, I think that of course David Tennant's Doctor wouldn't want to regenerate. He's the vanity Doctor. He's got such an ego. Why would he want to change? You know, that's his character. So yeah. I think it works well for him, to be honest.
Also, it was 2009, 29th of October 2008.
Oh, right, okay.
That he announced he was leaving. So between Journey's End and The Next Doctor. So I think it was probably around there. The Next Doctor title then suddenly becomes much more intriguing, doesn't it?
Interestingly, they played that card twice, isn't it, really, in the same year?
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, with that, for me, I think it was very exciting at the time. Like, that was a huge cliffhanger, of course. Now, I feel like I went through a period of thinking, well, it's a bit silly, isn't it? Sort of Russell outdoing himself. But now I'm fine with it, really. Like, I think, you know, you might as well. I think the scale of this story justifies that. Yeah. It's making it a huge event. And also, I think it makes that reunion between the Doctor and Rose not go too smoothly, which is what you want in a drama, isn't it?
You need conflict to have drama, you know.
So you might as well throw that spanner in the works there, especially when you've got the cliffhanger coming. What else are you going to do for that, I suppose?
You want something that will just keeps building and building and just, We'll get to see whether Russell put himself in a box later. Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing that we've said before about Russell's finales is that, you know, it's the Deus Ex Machina or Davies Ex Machina, as it's become nicknamed, at the end, where, you know, he's written himself into a corner. Something sort of weird has to happen to get us out of this. So do you want to tell us how we get out of this cliffhanger?
I sure can. So we start off with the regeneration, but sort of the Doctor's healed himself so much to stop the change, he siphons in the energy to his hand, which has been an ongoing thing in the TARDIS in all of since the end of series 3, isn't it?
Yeah, his handy spare hand.
Yeah. So it's been nice that that's sort of been leading up to something. It's not just been there for the sake of it.
I mean, it was also in the Hubble throughout Torchwood Series 1 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it makes you think whether Russell did have this big, grand scheme really planned out, or he just didn't and just thought that'll work well. But yeah, so going back to Sarah Jane, she's about to be exterminated and not do a Dalek invasion of Earth and smash the Daleks. I guess she's very much like the third Doctor. No, don't damage the car. But we have Mickey and Jackie to the rescue as they blast the Daleks and save Sarah Jane. The TARDIS is now taken to the Crucible, and this where else Sarah and Mickey and Jackie gonna go to find the Doctor. They're gonna go to the Crucible, so they get rounded up by the Daleks. So off they go, the Doctor and gang outside the TARDIS. Donna hears a heartbeat, gets stuck in the TARDIS. The TARDIS gets sent down to the heart of the Crucible to be destroyed. And, you know, there's a lot of anger by the 10th Doctor, as you expect, which is great. And, you know,
I think it's one of those moments that helps that Red Supreme stand out as well.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about how the Doctor is connected to this TARDIS and how he's feeling it die. You know, those little moments of character in the Dalek villains are moments we cherish and definitely helps this Red Supreme stand out in the same way that the Planet of the Daleks Supreme does to many fans.
Jack gets zapped and sent to be put in the rubbish.
Yeah.
And we have Martha now in Germany at one of the 5 Osterhagen stations, hidden away. As we learn more about what that is, but it's a nuclear thing. If the human race is suffering, it's going to be so great, then they'll just wipe them out just so they don't suffer.
I think the build up to that reveal is very strong as well, because you've got like the woman who's like the caretaker of that castle.
Cameras, yes.
Yeah, there's that wonderful scene where she pulls the gun on Martha.
Yes.
And that's so strongly directed and written as well. The fact that she's just talking about, like you say, London glamorous and such, but you know there's more going on there as Martha. It's small talk, but there's something beneath it. There's the subtext there, which Russell always did so well. And how Martha just faces that down and says, if you're going to do it, then do it.
Yeah.
That's very powerful stuff. And of course, you got the fun exterminator and Daleks in the forest.
Which is nice because the TARDIS's translation isn't there, so of course the Daleks should be saying that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that the Daleks themselves choose to speak the language of the people they're invading.
Yeah, I guess they just want to make it known, but you're gonna die. Speaking of dying, Donna's about to die as the TARDIS is exploding, as it's being ripped apart. But
you've got those like glass lights on the side, don't you?
The roundel
bursting. Yeah. They're always taking a beating, aren't they?
I just found it. I always find it funny when the Meta Crisis Doctor's just on the step ladders going, "All fixed," and he's just like, "What? How long have you been doing that then?" But yeah, speaking of Meta Crisis Doctor, Donna touches Jar hand. Meta Crisis Doctor appears. He's naked. Oh yes. And there's about like 20 rails before the TARDIS is destroyed, but Meta Crisis Doctor saves the day as it's put in sort of silent mode or something like that, in low power mode, so it can't be detected. So they're
Spanner in a submarine.
Yeah. So they're sort of drifting away, thinking about how they can save the day. Meanwhile, Sarah, Mickey, and Jackie are about to be part of the experiment of the reality bomb, where we get the whole plan of what's going on, because Rose and the Doctor are now in the sort of lower levels of a crucible. The sort of
they're in the vaults.
The vault, which is wonderful.
The Doctor very much gets to tease Davros with that, doesn't he? He's like, you're the Dalek's pet. To really anger him. And I think it's nice that Russell's very much called back on that from the classic series Davros stories, in that Davros and the Daleks never quite get on 100%. He's always destined to be exterminated or overthrown by them in some way. It's right back to how he was treated at the end of Genesis the Daleks. But it's like a abusive relationship, isn't it? He's coming back for more.
Yeah. He only wants the best for his creations, I guess. Speaking of creations, this is when the Doctor's creations, the Children of Time, have been weaponized. You've got Martha threatening, the Daleks with the Osterhagen process, but they can't use the reality bomb if Earth's been destroyed. And then you have Sarah Jane with the Warp Star.
Yeah, Jack sort of survived his incineration, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's snuck back off through the ship and met up with Jackie, Mickey, and Sarah, who escaped getting reality bombed.
Yes. So this, and then we get a flashback to all the people who've pretty much died in Russell's era.
Or at least sacrificed themselves in the Doctor's name.
Yeah.
You got Jabe there, Astrid's unnamed stewardess woman from Midnight.
Jenny. Yeah, you can see that it's very much Russell's thing.
Although at the same time, I think it's weird that Donna isn't included in this.
True.
Because from the Doctor's perspective, I mean, from the audience, we know that she survived at this point, but for the Doctor, Rose and such, they believe she's dead, don't they? Unless the Doctor knows that she survived because he didn't feel the TARDIS die, but obviously couldn't say anything out loud. Could that? Yeah. It's hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that, it's just like, because you know as an audience member that Donna's still alive, it's easy to forget that. Does the Doctor know that or not? Did he sense the TARDIS leave?
I think so, because they're linked, aren't they? So I think he probably would have had a knowing that there's something going on. Speaking of going on, Metacrisis Doctor and Donna have been building a weapon what will target Davros's DNA if they fire it at Davros, which will destroy all the Daleks. So the reality bomb's about to go off, and the TARDIS appears, and Metacrisis Doctor comes to zap Davros.
Before that,
go on.
You've got all the companions who have just been holding the Earth and Crucible to ransom get teleported in.
Oh yes, yeah.
And rounded up. And then TARDIS comes along.
Metacrisis Doctor gets zapped. Donna does the same, but that sparks the Doctor Donna for the Time Lord part to kick in for Donna.
Thank you, Davros.
And then we have the whole fastest, temp in Chiswick starts to begin. Dalek starts spinning. Weapons are non-functioning, and
Davros gets zapped by his own hand.
Yeah, and we've got Martha being an independent queen, pushing a Dalek on her own, where Rose and Sarah, and then two people to push a Dalek.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah, which is nice considering how Rose treated Sarah at school reunion.
I mean, she's just been treating Martha like that throughout most of this story. But there is I think there is a nice scene where they finally do meet, in quotation marks, when Martha's got the Osterhagen kid. She's like, she's good. Who's she? And then, you got Martha
saying, you found
it's
her
Rose. Then. And he's like, oh, he found you.
Yeah.
It's I'm kind of wishing Rose just said, well, actually, I found him.
Yeah.
Not quite as smugly, but more just, little
dig.
Yeah. Because she's obviously the one who crossed the dimensions to get there for him. It's not. He didn't go out looking for Rose.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, nice little scene between the two of them.
Yeah, we have the Russell T Davies sort of foreboding with Dalek Khan's prophecy that one will die. As the planets are starting to go back by the magnetron, but the Supreme Dalek blew it up, so there's one planet left, which of course is Earth.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice that Jack gets to blow up the Supreme Dalek though.
Yeah.
There's a bit of karma there for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, also the Metacrisis Doctor at this point has decided to commit genocide on the Daleks.
Yeah, because obviously
they're all blowing up.
They're all blowing up.
The one inside the hub blows up.
And they all go running into the TARDIS, and they say bye Davros and do the classic thing. Will Davros survive? Of course he will. So we use the rift as a rope around the Earth, and then we have Mr. Smith sort of using the base code, isn't it, for the TARDIS to be locked.
I think there's a wonderful moment in that scene where Yanto's just like, "Yes, sir," to the Doctor,
and we get K9, which is lovely. You think, where is he? And there he is. He makes an appearance.
Yeah, gives a little boost to it. Doesn't quite get to fight a Dalek, but that's what audios are for.
Yeah, exactly. So the Earth is now back, and it's goodbye, everyone. So we get a nice sort of touching scene.
Doesn't happen while the Doctor's knocked out, and they all just depart off screen except for one.
Yeah, which is nice.
Sorry, Character Doctor. I mean, it's that triumphant music, isn't it, that I think really sells it. It's a ridiculous scene. And you've obviously got the almost unforgivable moment from Freema where
David does it as well.
Does he?
The Meta Crisis Doctor, there's a bit when he looks at it and he's like, that's so not the Doctor, that's David.
Shame on them.
No, but it's wonderful because it's kind of like, hey, you like it, and you're totally there. You totally buy it. You're with it.
But yeah, I think it's the music that really sells that, though. You know, the triumphant chorus from Murray Gold. It really does help to bring it home.
Yeah,
as
quite
it were.
Literally. So, after pretty much everyone's been dropped off, we get a final goodbye with Rose and the Meta Crisis Doctor on the beach. And that's that. Or is it? Because one is still yet to die. As we have a touching scene between the Doctor and Donna, as Donna is slowly burning up, and the only way to
binary
save Donna is by wiping her mind of all encounters of him, rendering her unconscious. So we go back to Chiswick, and the Doctor explains to Silver and Wilf, going, look, she can't remember me at all, or else she will die.
She was better with you.
I
think that comes along an end of time, but still.
Yeah, we'll get our answers.
Yeah, Wilf is heartbreaking in this scene, though, isn't he? He really sells the tragedy of it. I think there's a wonderful shot where he opens the door and you just see the TARDIS there, and it pans down to the Doctor holding Donna on the doorstep. That's beautifully done. I mean, Graham Harper,
brilliant,
master of his craft.
So the Doctor leaves, giving us one of the famous gifs of all time of the Doctor stood out in the rain, and Wilf giving us a touching speech that every night I look at the stars and think of him. And off the Doctor goes, looking melancholy in the TARDIS.
Bit wet as well.
Yeah, bit wet. Cybermen might be there, might not be, but that's a deleted scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's another bit of trivia, isn't it? There was a scene shot with the Cybermen appearing at the end there inside the TARDIS for like what's become a classic now at this point for David Tennant cliffhangers, the what moment. But Russell quite wisely in the end decided, you know what, let's cut that, let's leave it on the more somber note this time for a change. Which, I mean, it works out nicely, doesn't it?
It doesn't undercut it.
Yeah. And also, similar to what we were saying earlier with the whole Bad Wolf thing and such, it's the big bombastic cliffhanger that doesn't really relate to the next story as such. Like with the Titanic, that's quickly undone. I mean, that happens in Time Crash, doesn't it? That gets undone. Or does... Oh, no, it happens again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because he forgets to put shields back up still. You get that last line from Davo. And then Titanic comes crashing through a second time. So, yeah, that's... But it's like quickly got out of, isn't it, in both? I mean, less so Runaway Bride, actually. Credit where credit's due. That one's one where it makes sense plot-wise. That's not just a what moment for what moment's sake. Yeah. And then that's also, I mean, we're getting into Runaway Bride territory here. But just to say, that's wonderfully followed up on as well, because the Doctor is grieving throughout that story. But anyway, back to this story, because he's got something entirely new to grieve over this time, as he said goodbye to Donna. But that could now all change, because they're back again for the 60th anniversary. So how do you feel about where things have been left for these two characters? How that all goes down in the climax of the story with the Dr. Donna and the fastest temper Chiswick pushing buttons to defeat the Daleks?
I had such a good time watching this. I'm not gonna lie. Watching Stolen Earth, I had goosebumps, and I was like, my God, I've not felt this watching Doctor Who in ages.
It's how well it's shot and paced and written. It all comes together to really build up that adrenaline rush, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's so well done, because it's not like you're getting exposition. It's all happening concurrently. And it's so frenetic with everything going on. And I always thought Stolen Earth was a bit Dr. Light, but it's amazing how well he's integrated, and you don't really miss him when he's not there, because you've got Daleks blowing up things.
Yeah, it's all very Doctor Who still, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got all these different faces that you've met over the past few years.
You've got different Russell iconography, like the Valiant going down. You know, it is a celebration of Russell's era, and I think End of Time's a bit like Twice Upon a Time. It's a bit of an epilogue in a way. This is like this is my last full series, so of course I'm going to do something big, and I'm going to bring back Davros.
Yeah, it's the big crossover celebrating everyone, whereas End of Time gets to be much more Doctor focused, as it should for the final story for that Doctor. And I mean, I think we loved The End of Time. If you've not seen our review on that, spoiler there, but we really enjoyed it. And, you know, I still do prefer The End of Time to both this and Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf.
Okay.
But, yeah, certainly with this, it's not as anywhere near as bad as I remember it being. I mean, I loved it as a child, but then sort of went through a phase of disliking how it treats certain things. But I think as a viewing experience, as an event, it still works so well.
You get so caught up in that roller coaster, you're just like, I don't care what the plot is. It's just a lot of shooty lasers and characters I love, and you just kind of get sucked into it. And maybe that's just saying something about me as a fan, but I had such an amazing time with it. You know, I always thought Journey's End is the weakest, but coming off this rewatch, I don't think it's as bad as I remembered it.
No, not at all. I think, again, it's one of those things that, like, when you think about it critically while stepping away from it, it's easy to pick holes in it, and we will pick holes in it in a minute. But I think certainly you can't deny that when you're sat there watching it, it is an event. It's never dull. It's never boring. There's always fun going on.
It can never be done again. It's a moment in time, this story.
Yeah.
You can do it with a different generation of Doctor Who, but it will never be like this.
No, this is very unique to what Doctor Who was at this time, and it's very much a celebration of that peak of popularity it reached in 2008, really. Yeah, wonderful stuff in that sense. But in terms of Donna / the Dr. Donna idea, I think it's kind of a shame.
I think in terms of like Donna, you've got the link back to the temp in Chiswick. It kind of puts Donna up on a pedestal, doesn't it, with her agency?
I mean, it's nice how they do use that to merge. You know, it's
together.
not just Donna is now the Doctor. It's that, you know, she's got all the Doctor's brilliance and Time Lord mind and such, but mixed with her own Donna-ness, really. I mean, as she says, that little bit of human, that gut instinct, and then that she could think of ideas. Those two, referring to the Meta Crisis Doctor and the Doctor himself, couldn't dream of in years.
I see where others stumble blind.
That's the new Donna.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I suppose it's also in the sense that, you know, she doesn't choose to touch the hand. She doesn't know what's going to happen there. She doesn't know about this whole Meta Crisis thing. And it does feel like it's more just an excuse to have that fun of Catherine Tate essentially playing David Tennant's Doctor really for a little bit.
And vice versa, I guess. Really.
Yeah, you get that in Return as well with the Metacrisis Doctor. Oh, you watch it, Earth Girl. Yeah, all that fun stuff, which is great. It helps it be event television, but at the same time, I'm not sure if character-wise, but Donna, it works for me because, you know, she's been this great character, how she's grown all this time, but then she doesn't get a say in her ending. And I mean, sometimes that sort of tragedy works, but it's nice when a character gets to choose the tragedy for the greater good, I suppose. Because if Donna hadn't done this, then, you know, you wouldn't have been able to defeat the Daleks and such. But at the same time, she doesn't choose the meta crisis.
It's
like things. Again. It's just thrown upon her, and then she's got to deal with that consequence of, oh, I've got to lose my memory now. And it's worse that she doesn't even
have a say in it.
Consent to that, really. It's the Doctor, you know, wiping her mind.
Does that make her ending better because she doesn't get that choice in terms of her agency? But she's lost that, but she gained, you know, the Doctor's personality, which you know can only last so long. Because of, you know, what happened with Rose with the Heart of the TARDIS, you know, a human mind can't sustain that.
Yeah. But then it's like, you know, she doesn't make the choice in the end to give it all up so that she could continue living a normal life. That choice is made for her by the Doctor, which I think, it just makes it all, the end of her arc, ring a bit hollow after everything she'd been through up until this point. I mean, I think Wilf puts it best in End of Time. She was better with him. So, you know, it's a shame in that, but there's a big but coming now because 15 years later, they're carrying on with this character's arc, and so it has that chance to be improved in retrospect, depending on where the specials go with this. Because we know certainly this isn't going to be an End of Time scenario. She is presumably getting her memory back somehow.
At what cost?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully she is just playing Donna and not Dr. Donna. I think Dr. Donna is fine for that bit. It's fine.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun for that. I don't know if it would be interesting to sustain it for 3 whole specials for the 60th. Although then you can argue it's a multi-Doctor 60th.
Yes,
to shut those fan complaints up. But
I feel like there'll be a wink and nod to it. Whether we get it is a different thing.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I think there's only one place for Donna. I don't think Donna can ever have a happy ending.
All right. Yeah, we'll see how things go. But yeah, I think it'll be nice to have just a Donna herself back, and also a Donna who has moved on in the 15 years since, having got a daughter now and such. I mean, got a husband who she's still with all those years later. So yeah, that'll be a nice way to take the character. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, certainly knowing now that this isn't necessarily her ending, I think is helping me with the way her character goes in this. But what about another ending, another story that's tied up in here? Rose, as she gets dumped with a knockoff Doctor, the Doctor from
perfect for her, isn't
Wish.
It?
Yeah, it does.
This is probably a bit ungrateful for it, but it's the only outcome she could ever have. She finally can grow old with the Doctor she fell in love with, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it was sort of teased early on as well, you know, the idea of them getting a mortgage and house together in Satan Pit. Yeah, like that idea is teased there. But you've got it with the Doctor in School Reunion, how he says, you grow old, you wither, and you die, but I carry on, Curse of the Time Lords. You know, and so this nicely does bring it back to some things in Series 2, doesn't it? And gives her a happy ending or near enough to it.
Is Rose, I don't want to say Rose is a bit of a cougar, but is the Meta Crisis Doctor technically 0 years old? Like, technically, how old is the Meta Crisis? Because I don't think he's going to be in his mid-30s age, like, in terms of, like, bodily organs and stuff, would it? Or would he just be, like...
Or is he adopted Donna's age? Is he the same age as Donna, like, physically, perhaps?
I don't know. This is the deep level we're going to.
I mean... Rose was 19 and the Doctor was 900 and something when they met, so it's probably about the same difference ratio wise.
Yeah.
That's best left not gone into too much
let's not-
detail on.
We'll leave that bit.
Please don't bring that back, Russell, with Ruby and the 15th Doctor. Let's leave that trait in the past. Let's have more of the Doctor and Donna relationships where they are.
I think it will
best
be
mates traveling the stars. And yeah, I think it's what makes these two such a special duo to me. It's what makes Series 4 the best of the whole revival, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think that they are the best of the revival? Do you think that this is the ultimate companion Doctor pairing?
I think so. And so it's why I'm very happy to see them back. I mean, I'd be happy to see anyone back, really, but these two in particular, it feels like there's something special there. And it feels like there's unfinished business with Donna's memory arc that we now get to return to. But Davy's Ex Machina time, how about that whole quick defeat of the Daleks at the end there?
I don't like it because it kind of gets hidden by, here's a load of technobabble. I reversed all this. I did this. Here's a few buttons pressed. It just is so quick fire. And I get that it's imitating David because he can just rattle off stuff. But I think when Catherine does it, and this is no slight to Catherine, it just becomes like it becomes just white noise, and you just get lost in it.
Yeah, I think it is probably the most egregious case of technobabble in the RTD era, isn't it?
Yeah.
In just how it all comes together for the Daleks' defeat. It is very much the ultimate Davy's Ex Machina, I'd say. I mean, we discussed with End of Time how that isn't really that case. That's very well set up in how to get out of that. Whereas here, it feels a bit too cheap. It feels like, the stakes have been raised so high. You've built up to this incredible climax that there is no easy way out of it at this point.
There's going to be an explosion.
I think, yeah. It's sort of like almost the cost of having an event this big. It's like that you have to accept that the ending is going to be a bit of a deflated balloon.
Feel like the rift, there'd be something like with the rift, and it will all be sent back into the Time War or something like of that scale. You think they could have just to raise, if you're going to raise the stakes a bit more, throw in that,
But again, it sort of comes down to budget in a way, and also Russell was pressed for time for this anyway. He cancelled going to Billy Piper's wedding in order to.
I mean, that wedding didn't turn out quite well. So fair play for Russell. He knew there was
foresaw.
a bad there.
Well, that was going to end up. So yeah, I mean, I could sort of accept it as an ending, but yeah, certainly
I don't think
like
it's
a bit
the
of a
worst.
letdown with everything.
I don't think it's the worst one for me. I still have a problem with Last of the Time Lords.
I think everything else that's set up before it makes it worthwhile. It's like, you've had this huge event, you have to accept that this is how it goes. And like I said, Murray Gold's music with the whole towing the earth back home, it brings it all together in a way that it probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it does have, it leaves you with a smile on your face. And you're just sort of there thinking, it's that thing of while you're watching it, it's all pretty much fine. It's all good and enjoyable. You're sucked into the event of it. It's when you're not watching it and you're thinking about it in hindsight, that you're it. I mean, most of the characters all come together nicely. Maybe there's a bit too much going on, a bit too many characters thrown in that no one really has too much substance. Like Rose's return.
It's set dressing, I think, for certain characters. They're just there to go, do you remember these? They're cool, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think it's nice that it's the Doctor, Jack, and Rose who come out of the TARDIS in sort of like a callback to Parting of the Ways. Moments like that work out very well. I mean, the Crucible sets are interesting, aren't they? There's often like bits of rock around and stuff. They're very rustic. It's sort of how this is supposed to be the Dalek Empire at its height, and yet it's much more grungy than they are in Series 1, where they're supposedly scavengers.
Which is, I still think that set design's the best for any inside like Dalek spaceships.
Yeah. Here it does sort of feel a bit like, oh, we've had to cobble this together from a location we visited.
It does feel like they stole the planet. It feels like the stuff what would be inside the planet's core.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that is the Crucible completely constructed, do you think? Or is it more a case of the Daleks found the planet and built this around it? You know?
It feels very much like that, and they just sort of piloted it, but the planet kind of gave up.
Maybe more of a moon or something.
Yeah.
Less Death Star, more Star Killer Base.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, this is very Death Star inspired, isn't it? It's Doctor Who's answer to the Death Star in a lot of ways. But like, instead of destroying one planet at a time, it wipes out the entirety of reality.
Yes.
Which also raises a problem if you think about it too hard, because, you know, if this is able to erase all realities, all alternative dimensions, and there's infinite of them, surely there's one dimension where this happens and Davros isn't stopped for whatever reason. But, you know, again, you don't place too much logic on that. It's something not to be thought too hard about.
What do we think of Davros? Because I think that's a thing we should talk about. I
Mm.
mean, we've done 10 hours on Genesis of a Dalek, so I wonder if we can do 10 hours on Julian Bleach as Davros.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
He is amazing. He's amazing.
He manages to take the best bits of Michael Wish's performance and the best bits of Terry Malloy's, I feel. He gets like those quieter moments very well. I love the tapping that he introduces with the claw metal hand.
Which looked more convincing as a kid.
Yeah, looking back, it is a bit more obviously a glove of some
Yeah.
kind. But I think it's those sound effects that help sell it, isn't it? The tapping.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're actually looking at it and you see it, you don't realise, well, that's not actually metal. It's a glove.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Beautiful
wonderful in those quiet.
prosthetics as well.
Yeah. He's also got an added madness to him that I don't think is there. Like when he's screaming, detonate the reality bomb. It's not the sort of Nazi chant screaming that Michael Wisher had. You know, it's something different, which I think suits the character at this point, having escaped the Time War. Yeah. I mean, especially with him, it's ultimately is going back to that whole, if you created a virus that could destroy all forms of life, but instead of just all forms of life, it's all matter itself instead.
Yeah, because you get him talking about, you know, the atoms become, you know, molecules and all that sort of stuff, isn't it? And stars become dust.
I mean, that's a wonderful little monologue there, which Julian Bleach delivers beautifully. And I mean, again, it is ultimately the event of Davros as a child. That's what's giving you the goosebumps, seeing him back, encountering
It's a classic
modern
reveal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the slow build of what you'd get in any good, you know, classic story where you'd get a bit. And I think it was a deliberate choice by Graham Harper to do it that way, I think, and it works. I mean, granted, because we've got bigger tellies, when you get the long shot of Davros, you can see the mask, which you probably didn't pick up on in 2008, but I remember the big jaw-dropping moment when you finally see the mask.
Yeah, as he sort of rolls into view on the screen.
Yeah. But yeah, nice updated design.
I mean, it's the first time he's had like a wheelchair change, isn't it?
Yeah, skirt being more of the new series one.
Yeah.
And I feel like because it's quite bulky and big, you can believe that it's more of a life support system in a way.
I mean, now he actually glides along as well instead of sort of oddly shuffling, as you can see Michael Wisher, David Goodison, or Terry Malloy struggling there at the bottom too.
Especially in Resurrection, my goodness, poor Terry going along those corridors.
Yeah, I suppose at least David had Tom to push him along.
Yeah, that's one good thing about Destiny of the Daleks, and there are many good things about Destiny of the Daleks, which I'm sure we will get onto at a later date.
But yeah, I mean, do we have any final things to say about Stolen Earth and Journey's End before we bid goodbye and, you know, finally put a bow on this Regeneration Advent Calendar series.
It was just a marvelous thing.
Mm.
I think watching it back, it makes me go, God, weren't we lucky?
And I mean, we will be lucky again. It looks like
Yeah.
with Russell coming back. It is one of those stories that makes you go, God, I'm glad he's back. Even it has its problems, and hopefully, that's something that Russell is now able to improve on. In that, he's had this time in between now to grow as a writer, and on top of that, he's not got the huge workload that he had in 2008. They are getting these stories in the bag quite far in advance of when they're going out. I don't think the process is as rushed on him. I mean, maybe that was one of his terms of coming back, was that, give me more breathing room so I can properly write these things to the standard that I want them to be. Because I mean, sometimes Russell being rushed produces brilliance. Like
Tooth and Claw, I love.
Yeah, that's one as well.
One of my favourite Tennant stories.
Yeah, sometimes when he's put in a room, locked away for 48 hours, suffering, burning the midnight oil, he comes out with brilliance. He shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
That's not suitable conditions for anyone to work under. But nevertheless, in those stressful situations, creativity does bloom, and you get amazing stories like Tooth and Claw, like Midnight. But now hopefully he instead gets to fully flesh out his ideas, and I mean, that's all what we've got to look forward to in the future. Looking back to the past, this just watching it transports you back to 2008, isn't it?
That's
it takes you back to that event.
I feel like a kid, and I don't care about anything else. I'm just in that mindset going, I feel like I'm 10 years old again. And that's the beauty of Doctor Who. It's a show about time travel, but you get transported in your own memory, in your mind. And I think that this two-parter just does that for me immensely. I know there are flaws there, but my God, what a fun time it is.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's just a fun time at the end of the day. It's nothing overly profound. It's not trying to be a masterpiece. It has its great introspective moments, like when Davros is revealing the Doctor's heart, with how he's taken ordinary people and fashioned them into weapons. Yeah, there's brilliant moments like that then sort of feed into the Time Lord Victorious theme as the specials go on. But yeah, for this, it's just a fun, bombastic, entertaining event.
It's popcorn. It's cinema telly. You want your popcorn and just be whisked away.
Yeah. And because these characters have been built up so well over the past 4 years before this, you get some real genuine emotion from it all as well.
You have an attachment to every single one, even Sylvia. Yeah.
And I mean, that's a wonderful little ending there as well, isn't it? Where the Doctor's like, maybe you should tell that every once in a while.
Yeah.
It all comes together wonderfully, really, just to make a proper event that we can all sit down and enjoy 15 years later still. I mean, even I've said about my problems with how Donna is treated towards the end of this story, but even then, I can't help but feel emotional when watching those farewell scenes, partially because of Bernard Cribbins being incredible, but even before he comes along and it's just Donna begging to keep her memories, it's strong stuff. Okay, Murray Gold helps to really bring it together, and the acting of David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Yeah. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's for Lonely God 10, isn't it? What we've had build up since, School Reunion, I'd guess. Well, actually, Christmas Invasion,
Yeah, but I think I know what you mean. The swimming pool scene in School Reunion is where that really gets to come along as a whole. And there's that wonderful juxtaposition where Sarah's telling him, you act so lonely, but look at this, you've got the biggest family in the world. And then they've all bid farewell, and he's on his own about 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Standing in the rain.
It's just powerful stuff, isn't it? Because this two-parter, it's a time capsule, as we said before.
It's got another Russell T Davisism of the rain itself as well, not being ordinary rain. It's because the planet's been pulled along. It's caused some atmospheric disturbances. Often the way that was always the snow in the Christmas specials, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's not actual snow.
But should we rate it?
I'm happy to. I think I'll feel generous. I'll go an 8. I was jumping between a 7 and an 8, but I think I'll be good. I mean, Stolen Earth is definitely. I'd say Stolen Earth's a 9. Journey's End's a 7, so it evens out to an 8. How about you?
Do you know what? I'm gonna be the nice one and go 9.
Really?
This has always been a favorite. I've always cited this as one of my favorite Tennant stories.
Wow.
And there's just, I don't know if it's nostalgia or just what this story is. I just, there's something about it what I just can't.
It's an easy one to put on, isn't it? And
yeah,
enjoy.
It's one way, just like it's comfort for a certain generation of fans.
Yeah, and we happen to be from the right generation for that to work.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Doctor Who isn't cool or what it was, but for us this was peak time of us being fans, and just everything was just right. Everything was blowing in the right direction with this.
Yeah, the stars really aligned with this one.
Yeah, and I think that's it. We're not bashing on anything that's gone since. It was just we were the perfect age for this.
You had to be there, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it sucks to be you if you weren't,
But other people have their own events in Doctor history as well, don't they? And all power to them for those moments. Yeah. I mean, let us know in the comments below if you have a different sort of peak moment of Doctor Who for your childhood or adulthood even.
Yeah.
Because we sort of see Doctor Who as, since it is a children's show,
it's family viewing.
Dare I say, without pissing too many people off.
Comment sections are light now.
But yeah, we sort of always have that view of, people watched it growing up. But there are Doctor Who fans who came into it as adults.
Yeah.
There are those of the generation before ours who grew up in the wilderness years and then were in their late teens when it came back on. And so never quite got the experience of having a doctor while they were younger. I mean, some people would have had Paul McGann. But
technically, Paul's our doctor.
Yeah.
Technically, he's ours.
He was the incumbent doctor from when we were born until when series 1 came along. But yeah, I don't think it would have been the same for people of that generation. Obviously, some of them got into Doctor Who through Gold and such, and watching the classic series at that time. Maybe Pertwee would have even been their doctor because he had a resurgence at that time. But yeah, I think there are other fans who would have come into it from different points. Anyway, I'm just rambling now about Doctor Who.
Yeah, you don't want
fandom in general. We're not. We're at Journey's End now.
Yeah,
it's time to say goodbye.
I've got to, get a rope and send you back to your place.
Yeah, pull me back.
Pull you back.
Place in the
pull
universe.
You back. Pull you back from the rift and all that. I guess that all what's left to do is
pull them all in.
Like, subscribe, do all that. And if you haven't checked out the regeneration stuff, check it out. Or if you have, revisit it. Because why not? It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing it. And this is the end of the regeneration for now. We might be back November, December to cover another Tennant regeneration.
Who knows? And yeah, we'll definitely be doing videos on all that fun stuff as it comes.
Yeah. But until then, we'll see you very soon. I think our next one is a John Pertwee celebration of his life with Stephen Noonan. So if you've reached this far, we'll be doing that on the 7th of July, Friday, the usual time, usual place, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. If you're watching this in the far, far future, you can always go back and check that out if you want to.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching this the day it comes out or the day after, we'll see you then.
We'll see you then.
Take care, everyone.
And goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.